Absolutely. So we're going to go to our feature for today. Let's go to our feature. We're going to welcome our esteemed panel. Uh, we already welcome Jason Sarney, the hardest working man on Dolphins Nation. And I'm going to call it right now, future Dolphins fan of the year, the bearded fanatic. Manny, welcome to Vince TV, guys.
Welcome, gentlemen. Yep, didn't hear. You guys on?
Okay.
Proud to be here, guys. Thanks
Mic
for
check.
having
There
me.
we
You
go.
guys hear me?
Hey, yeah, that's a that's the tradition of the show. If your mic doesn't work, you're not part of the crew.
Now I feel part of the crew. Like I was saying,
That's baptism by fire here at Vince TV.
I set the standard. Just follow along.
I really appreciate the compliment. I told you off air. I think that's very nice of you to say. It's about the nicest compliment I received as a Dolphin fan so far. That, you know what? It's not the goal, but it's definitely a dream. I would love to be able to support this brand of the Miami Dolphins someday like that.
No, I know you're not campaigning. Let's be honest. I'm not saying you're campaigning by any means. You haven't said anything about that. But I truly believe that's going to happen. You're going to be a future Dolphins fan. So
I appreciate it.
I'm calling it first. So I want to start with this is a forum about basically of the status of the Dolphins leadership. That the status of the Dolphins. I want to start with Jason. Jason, you saw the statement by Big Fangio. Big Fangio apparently said to Ron Jaworski that some Dolphins players are not working hard enough. They prefer to party instead of working hard. Certainly, the Dolphins' late collapse will tell us that someone said on Twitter, I think Steve was the one saying to me, that while the Chiefs were talking about how about the overtime rules in preseason, the Dolphins were talking about golf clubs and golfing machines during December and Hard Knocks. So, do the Dolphins have a leadership problem right now, according to leadership?
I don't think so. And, based on the Ron Jaworski reports and what Fangio said, those guys are our old buddies. So maybe one thing was said or in like a game of telephone, maybe something was misconstrued. Look, players can do what they want. They're allowed, like anybody else, after their work to do what they want to do. But if you look at a guy like a Jaylan Ramsey coming back as early as he did from that kind of an injury, if we're looking at a guy like that, you can't really focus on him not doing his part on getting back to the field because he came back probably a month early, and that defense took it to the next level with him specifically. So I don't know who he might have been targeting, but I thought it was a little bit of a molehill, so to speak. So I don't think there's a leadership problem. There's a lot of leaders on the team, but I don't think there's a problem.
Well, during the show, we have a lot of discussion about is Mike McDaniel's style of coaching. Yeah, that kind of buddy friendship, motivational kind of style. Is good for the long run. Are the players are not taking enough accountability and taking advantage of Mike McDaniel's kind of friendship style? So we're gonna go to VP Manny. What are your thoughts? Do you think that sometimes maybe Mike McDaniel's style is too loose for this team?
I don't know if it's too loose. I don't think I would say that. I think he's definitely a player's coach. That goes without saying. I think
All-Pro, and a Super Bowl champ. We've seen a lot from those guys where I think they say the right things in public. We could have that debate about what's happening behind the scenes, but I do think Hard Knocks has kind of warped us when we want to see some real intense football stuff, when in reality it is kind of just a fun PR thing where they're not going to give away too much as well.
Absolutely. I want to go, Steve. Steve, we had a lot of talk about Mike McDaniel style. Sometimes, that when you see around the NFL, we talk about millionaires, players that have had egos, but Mike McDaniel style certainly has motivated. But sometimes we expect, maybe I'm an old fart, and I kind of say some more about my coach. What are your thoughts about that, Steve?
I don't know. Is he self-accountable? What does he really do? And I think to Jake's point, everybody's making some phenomenal points, and I really wish I could hit on every single one of them. But, about Hard Knocks and putting some type of image in what we would expect. And to be honest with you, what we saw from the in-season Hard Knocks kind of went in the face of what I really expected. I saw Mike McDaniel that we really don't see. Is he the quippy type person that he always is? Absolutely. But is he dropping a lot more F-bombs than I figured was in his vocabulary? 110%. But then when they pan to the crowd, to the audience that he's talking to, you really wonder, are they inspired? And I'm curious, if you go to other teams, if you had an in-season Hard Knocks with the Chiefs, let's call it a playoffs Hard Knocks with the Chiefs, and they cover them over the last 4 weeks, what do their rooms look like? Do they look the same exact thing? Are we seeing the same type of results given, two totally different teams, but, just to kind of get an experience, because I'm really curious as to what that looks like, because, I think my one thing about Coach McDaniel is this. In terms of self-accountability, is he says he makes mistakes, but has he shown yet that he has the propensity to improve from those mistakes and not continue to make them again and again and again? So it's just one of those really tough things. I don't necessarily know if it's on him to inspire greatness. I think that falls more on the players. Bearded, you brought up a phenomenal point there. And if Eddie was here, he'd be shaking his head and, raising his old man fist to the sky, screaming at the clouds, because I said a few weeks ago when Roquan Smith, when he was, pre-game talking about amping people up, and he just has that anger mentality. And I said something within our WhatsApp chat group, and he's like, you don't need a presence like that. You don't need somebody to yell. What did it do for him in that final playoff game when they played? Yeah, they lost. It's a team sport. But I still want somebody on that team that commands, that inspires the rest of the defense to be like, I'm going to run through walls. And players say that they'll run through walls for Coach McDaniel, but I'm not sure if I'm necessarily seeing that. You see what the product was this past Sunday with two swarming defenses, two defenses that absolutely destroyed the opposing offenses. Frankly, I saw that game as the best defense in the NFL up against a phenomenal defense with the best defensive coordinator, but they played an inspired game. And I'm not too sure if we have that presence in the Dolphins for a leadership to do it. The last thing I want to say on this, in the point about the age and the money and those types of things, I don't want to speak like I know what inspires the troops out there on the field when they're out there playing the 60 minutes. But we brought in a lot of big name players that have already been at the top of the world. They've raised the championship trophies. And I don't want to say that they're not inspired to reach that pinnacle again, but I sometimes wonder, does Tyreek really have that fire to get to the top again? Does Jalen Ramsey, he's getting paid. Does he have that fire to get to the top of the hill? And I really hope that this has been an opportunity for those players to, realize we have the talent, we just didn't put it together, and they can flip a switch and become those leaders that we need them to be.
Absolutely, great points. Matt, we talked about during the season so many times about the Dolphins. We wanted the Dolphins to step on the opponent's throat and finish the job. And so many times during the losses, that what we call the snowball effect. First drive, injury, the snowball effects down the hill, the Dolphins self-destructed so many times. But Matt, I want to know your thoughts about the status of the Dolphins leadership.
Leadership has so many different ways of manifesting itself. There are those that are vocal. There are those that lead by example. There are those that don't have a clue what they're doing, and they get thrust into a position where anybody step up, right? I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on in that locker room, and I am more than certain that there's a lot more fluff to the Fangio thing than there is meat to it. I love the idea that Wilkins is the one who led the voting. I'm a huge fan of his. Is he a leader? Here's the thing about him for me, and I am a leader. The thing about him is, if he was out there getting 3 sacks a season, I would not be unhappy with him leaving the team. That dude went out and showed the world, you should have paid me 2 years ago. You should have paid me before this season. I'm going to go out and get 10 sacks. I'm going to whip everybody's ass across the line from me, and I'm going to have fun while I'm doing it. That's the kind of guy that I could rally behind myself as a leader. I could follow that guy. Will they have a leadership problem if Wilkins leaves? That depends on how the locker room sees him. Did they have a leadership problem when Fangio was there? Maybe. The issue was Fangio himself. I don't think there's a leadership problem at the head coach position. I don't believe that at all. I think that uh, Coach Mike is leading a an NFL team in the year 2024. Um, what Belichick did 20 years ago, Tom Landry. Steve, you remember Tom Landry, right?
No.
For those who are just joining us today, Steve likes to take shots at me because of my elevated
Age.
age. Um, but those guys, they led in a different way, and the NFL today is not that way. McDaniel's going to burn out if he doesn't win, right? That's going to happen. There's a shelf life with this, and that shelf life might be 5 years. Let them run up 30 points a game and drop out of the first round of the playoffs. Somebody's going to say, all right, we want to try something new. But as of today, heading into free agency, heading into the 2024 draft, I don't think there is a leadership problem with the Dolphins. I think that there is an opportunity for somebody to grab it and take it by the throat, and everybody else should follow in behind them. Um, the last thing I want to add is moving forward, Jake Mendel is going to say everything that I need to say. In the 2 times that he's talked tonight, he has said exactly what I would say. Going back to the doom and gloom, Jake, if I could high five you right now, I would, man,
Great
because
minds.
these guys know that I'm the eternal optimist on this crew. That I predicted an undefeated season because I absolutely
And he was
believe in it.
honest about it.
Yes.
I absolutely was. But the doom and gloom thing is something that really gets under my skin. And I really appreciate you saying that. The Dolphins have been successful if you want to look at it with wide open eyes and not with this, oh my God, we got to fire everybody. We need to replace the QB. They've had success. They just need to find their way to build on that success. That's free agency. That's the draft. Being smart with it. Being smart with who you keep on the current roster. Um, I'm a Jake Mendel fan.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, I've been a fan for a long, long time. BP Manny, very fanatic. I want to go to you. We just saw the Super Bowl. If we compare with like what the Dolphins did during that late season collapse, and how the mentality of the teams, the 49ers could have won the game if not that turnover late in the game. But you can see that sometimes, maybe it's just me, but sometimes you can see like the mentality, that mental fortitude that sometimes teams need. The Dolphins sometimes are lacking that. What are your opinion about that?
I think you stole the words right out of my mouth. I was literally going to use mental fortitude as that. Like when you see Patrick Mahomes take the field, there is absolutely no fear in that man's eye. You should have all the confidence in the world that this man's about to lead you right down the field and win you the game. And that's why so many people were giving Kyle Shanahan so much crap about taking the ball first, because you knew this man was going to do whatever it takes to get you down the field. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, Tua hasn't shown that he has the capability of doing that. So when you look at these two teams that we just played, I believe that our offense is as great as the Chiefs. And I think our offense is just as great as the 49ers. But as I think it was Steve saying it, you saw this swarming defense from both these teams, and I feel like we just don't have that. Like Patrick Mahomes made us look like fools at every moment during that playoff game. Yeah, did we stop them a bunch of times and they had to kick a bunch of field goals? Sure. But then it goes back to the offense side of the ball. Tua didn't have enough in his arsenal at any point in that game to say, you know what, I'm going to pick apart the defense and get us down the field. You saw Brock Purdy do that. So when you look at this team as a whole and you're like, what's missing? I personally can't just pin it on one guy because I think there's a lot of things that look differently when you look at these two championship teams. I personally, when I look at this team, I think you just need that killer mentality, that mental fortitude. And the Dolphins currently just don't have that.
Absolutely. That sense of urgency. So many times during the games, the Philadelphia game, the Bills game, the one game I saw that sense of urgency, and I'm one of Tua's biggest defenders, but that kind of sense was the Dallas game. That Dallas game, the Dolphins were in control. They they sat as a second, third, fifth year. They wanted to win the game. They should have shown it. But other than that, there's so many times that the Dolphins, they were lacking that kind of social intimacy. Jason, you've been a fan for a long, long time. You're seeing everything, just like me, just like us. Jason, the Dolphins, you saw the Super Bowl. The Dolphins, like I said, compared to those teams, the mental fortitude sometimes, in my opinion, is lacking. What are your opinion about that?
I mean, if I'm looking at this kind of example, I'm looking at the Tennessee game. Last minute or two, there was no reason for them to lose that game. You play until it's 0-0-0 on the clock, and you play as hard as you can. I don't care what the score is. This was the tailor-made game of that mentality. You have to continue to play hard. You can't make mental mistakes like Bradley Chubb did, taking off his helmet, extending that potential drive, creating more points. So that game to me was the disaster game of a lack of the mental fortitude. And of course, if you go into the Buffalo game, the special teams breakdown, I guess goes into that, because special teams now, you're not going to see many return for touchdowns, and the Dolphins gave up 2 this year. It's been really eliminated with the way that the rules are. I think it's leadership and kind of the mental ability to want to make tackles on special teams and finish the play, finish drives, finish the game. I don't think we've seen that. Even when you need a yard or two, give me a full north-south yard, not around a screen, a toss 4-yard behind the line. These are mentally tough scenarios that I think the Dolphins have not shown that they have possessed in them. So hopefully that will change. Let's get a little bit more of a, like that's a great word. Fortitude. The mental fortitude is something that needs to improve on this team. 1,000%. And maybe Anthony Weaver on defense is a guy, because he's a player that might relate with the players, but still have that, oh man, I'm going to run through a wall for that guy. But you know what? A couple of years ago, he was doing what I'm doing now. So maybe I could relate a little bit more to him. So I like the Anthony Weaver hire in that kind of sense. I think he's going to help that fortitude.
Absolutely.
I just want to step in real quick. I've got bingo
Please.
because I had Jason Sarney calling out special teams during this broadcast, so I win. It was an easy bet. So
that's a gimme. It's like minus 290. You're not even making money on that.
I got bingo though. I won. So
okay, good.
Jake, the Dolphins certainly ran a kind of offense with the margin of error is very limited. The Dolphins cannot make mistakes. The timing offense, that certainly doesn't bode well for the cold weather, for you can get into the nitty-gritty of the playoffs, the physicality, and they certainly played through this season when they had to go to Kansas City with that passing offense and Tua, and the offense certainly looked lost. The defense, in the same way, looks many times unmotivated. So maybe those kind of change, like they're saying, go to Anthony Weaver, a guy who probably is younger, a little bit more motivational. Maybe that works. What do you opinion about that?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to that. And when you think about the issues for this defense wasn't that they did anything wrong. It's just there was nothing really special about it. I think that's kind of what Vic Fangio brought, was this foundation of the defense is going to do well. You're going to see star players play well. You see Javon Hallet have an excellent year lining up safety, slot corner, wherever it may be. But what someone like Anthony Weaver you hope can bring is something special, something game-breaking. What was it, the 2020 when Jordan Rodriguez, the Athletic, wrote about Jalen Ramsey being that star position, and how, yes, it started at this Vic Fangio defense, but Brandon Staley, yes, that Brandon Staley was the one to really push it over the edge and make it something special. So I think the biggest difference, or the biggest hope we're going to have with someone like Vic Fangio to Anthony Weaver, is some sort of specialization where we can kind of look at one specific group and really understand that this is what makes the Dolphins great, because they had a great secondary last year. Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey combined, I think, for 4 interceptions, and they were against the Raiders and the Patriots. Those aren't really the greatest high-powered offenses to go against. So while the defense looked pretty good under Fangio, while they had their moments, I don't think we let the players have those game-breaking moments, and that's kind of what you hope for with someone like Anthony Weaver.
Absolutely. Steven, any last thoughts about the status of the leadership of the Dolphins?
Well, I mean, on this topic, I don't like to point blame. So first and foremost, I don't think that you can look at any of this in a vacuum. And what makes this season unique about the Dolphins is that injury bug hit us, and we have to take that into account that we couldn't perform up to the expectations of what we wanted. My theme for this season is underachieving. Did our offense absolutely thrive against the teams that we needed to thrive against? Absolutely. But when it came down to the nuts and bolts of the games that we really needed, Cowboys game aside, the team underachieved, and the team is a combination of players and coaches. It is a team sport. They win as a team. They, as players and coaches, they certainly lose as a team. In the last 2 seasons, we've seen some really glaring examples of late season collapses where they lost as a team. And I don't know if it's going to take a different type of coach to kind of turn this around. I admit I don't know much about Coach Weaver. I really hope that he comes in and more than anything, a utilization standpoint. How is he going to use the talent that we have? Because we had, in my opinion, a star-studded defensive backfield that, to Jake's point, straight up underachieved. We didn't get out of them what we wanted. It sucked not having Ramsey on the field for those first several games, and that definitely fed into it some, but the utilization of those tools was still in place. And then the injuries hit again. And so, you got to look at these types of things and just, like Vic Fangio, we heard when he came in, he's been cooking things in his kitchen for the past 2 years, and he can't wait to roll this stuff out. I'm sitting there waiting the whole season wondering what the hell it was that he was cooking. It was like, ramen or some type of TV dinner or something like that, when we were expecting filet. So in reality, I think that it's a combination thing. It's a combination of the product that they produced with a really bad side of injuries. And if we didn't have those injuries, we just don't know what would have been. But the reality is that's what the hand that we were dealt, and we lost as a team, and hopefully they can find a way to turn it around.
Absolutely. Man, any last thoughts?
Just for everybody who just joined us this episode, for the record, the NFL only has 31 teams. If you don't know why there's only 31 teams, I'll be more than glad to share that with you so that the entire world knows that there is no AFC team in the New York City market. So just so you know, the New York Jets suck.
Facts.
That's a great way to end it.
Manny, any last thoughts about the Dolphins leadership?
I don't think I could top that at all. I don't think I could top. Listen, I had the pleasure, and I say that pleasure with quotation marks, of doing a show with a Jets fan, but he's about the only one that I could stand. But the rest of them, they definitely suck.
Well said, my brother. Jason, how about you?
I grew up in Long Island. So that's like the capital of Jetland. So that was a great comment, Matt. I'm just going to leave it at that. That was a really good way to end it. That put a smile on my face.
Absolutely. Well, Jason is going to be back for our last segment, the MVP segment, and BP Manny, the Beer Phinatic, is going to join us for the Defensive Player of the Year award. But I want to thank Jake before he goes. Jake, it's been great. We've still been a fan of yours for so many years. You do a great job. You're one of the smartest guys on the whole Dolphins nation. We really appreciate being with you.
Guys, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for having me, and have a great rest of the show. It's been a pleasure to be here.
No, that's awesome, man. Like Manny just said on the chat, you're spitting facts. It's an absolute pleasure to be on here. I know we've been talking about it for several months about getting together. It didn't disappoint. Looking forward to getting some more in the future.
We'll definitely make that happen for sure. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Jake.
Absolutely. Say hi to House. Tell him next time he needs to be here.
Yeah, I got you for sure.
Thank you for being here.